Hey Nationers, every once in a blue moon, an app drops that is all the craze. So much so that you only download the app because you don't want to miss out on being on the app. And one of the craziest ones in recent history is BeReal. BeReal was all of the craze. You'd add your friends, there would be a notification, and if that notification did not go out, people were upset. But something changed, and we're about to find out in today's video titled 115 million downloads, no business model, how BeReal lost everything. This feels like the rise and the fall of BeReal. And today we're gonna find out why BeReal is not one of the biggest apps on the planet. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let's get right into it.
BeReal was one of the fastest growing apps in the world.
That's very true.
Within a year, it leapt to number one on the App Store with over 80 million downloads. It was hailed
Okay, don't get me wrong, 80 million downloads is insane. Why is Microsoft Excel number 2 on that list?
as the anti-Instagram, and their competitors were very worried.
Right.
It seemed like everyone in Gen Z was using BeReal every day, and there was nothing else like it. Yet, BeReal has somehow disappeared overnight. Search interest fell by 94%.
That's
and
crazy.
BeReal was
You know, to be fair, I really dislike when people do charts like this. Like, BeReal has only been a thing for like 3 years. Since when was it a thing? In 2004? Come on now.
quietly sold off to Voodoo for just 500 million euros in mid-2024
Voodoo,
after making no revenue.
Like
How does
the
such an app gain such a gigantic loyal following and then suddenly lose everything? What happened to BeReal?
Let me tell you what happened to BeReal in my own personal opinion. What happened to BeReal, minus the ad incentive that they proposed. They took everything away that was authentic about BeReal. Okay, they added a bonus reel if you were on time, but now you can just do that anyways. So there's no specialty, there's no like FOMO. Oh my gosh, I missed my notification. I missed the 2-minute window that I had out of my 24-hour day. I could just post it whenever, it's no matter what. I can post as many as I want in a day. I've seen people post like 5 times in a day. Okay, what's cool about that? I want to know what happened when you first open the app. You only get 1 per day. They took everything special that was special about the app, the authenticity, the moment, the FOMO that you would have if you did not post. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So here's the crazy part. BeReal like sold to Voodoo.
The pandemic, 2 French developers are working hard on a new project. Alexis had just left his job at GoPro, and Kevin had just graduated from 42, a prestigious software academy. They're trying to create something different, something big, the anti-Instagram.
I think they did just that.
The idea is pretty simple. Users are notified at a random time once per day to BeReal. So what does that mean? You would have 2 minutes to take a photo of whatever you're doing, using both the front and the back-facing camera. You could ignore the notification and post later, but there's a catch. If you view your friend's BeReals, any that didn't take it within the 2 minutes will be labeled late. Filters are restricted.
Okay, that's not like the worst case scenario. I will say, I just wanted to pause. There has been many times that I've been on the toilet and the BeReal notification goes off, and you know, you gotta be real, guys, okay? It was right as I got off the toilet, okay? Guys, please don't shame me.
as well, and BeReal even reveals how many times you reshoot your photo.
Yes, very true.
Really is the opposite of Instagram, but it sounds quite restrictive.
Do appreciate the shaming.
What's the appeal of the random notification? How did it take off? Well, for the first while,
not weird, it's nice.
When Alexis and Kevin finally launched BeReal, things were quiet for 2 full years, until growth finally began to take off. At the start of 2022, BeReal had just over 1 million total downloads, which included 2020 and 2021.
That's kind of crazy if you ask me.
However, it leapt to 53 million and had 20 million daily active users.
That's
In July,
crazy.
It was number 1 on the App Store and reached a total of 83 million downloads by the end of that year. What's really interesting though is the demographics. About 80% of their users were under 25, meaning this growth was almost entirely Gen Z. And here things are starting to add up. Why did Gen Z adopt BeReal with open arms? Well, other platforms tend to have a problem with FOMO. Stories often feel like a highlight reel. Posts can sometimes feel like curated photo shoots. It can tend to be a bit perfect.
I'm not gonna lie, I think FOMO is one of the greatest receptors of attention. And I think BeReal captured that in an instant. I mentioned it in this intro. There was this feel of like, I did not want to miss out on downloading this, being a part of that experience. Now that I've been a part of the experience, what's the next step? What's phase 2? You've got me hooked in, but now you're trying to reel me in and keep me coming back. And I feel like they very much failed at that.
BeReal wanted to put the focus on the less flashy things, the day-to-day, mundane, and authentic moments. It's hard to carefully orchestrate the perfect photo, location, and activity if you only have 2 minutes notice. Most photos from friends are just ordinary snippets of life, but that was the point.
Yeah,
Once
and that was
you've taken
great.
your photo, you can see what your friends are up to. Less highlight
Like
focused and
people
more
up
in touch
on a
with the
hike,
day-to-day.
you know, people riding their
Gen
bikes
Z
at
went
the store.
crazy for this app.
I like
Instagram
that. That's
even
a
tried
cool
to create
thing.
their own cloned feature as they do for every new app, which makes what happened next so interesting.
Uh-oh, chapter 2. Free fall. Oh, wow. We have just gone on the rise and straight back down.
Statistics around BeReal are a bit fuzzy, but analysts estimate that they had 15 million active users in October of 2022.
Okay,
But by
that's
March of
definitely checks out.
2023, that fell to just 6 million.
Yeah?
Their downloads slowed down dramatically too, only
fair.
growing to 111 million in 2023. That's 28 million new downloads compared to 83 the previous year.
That's
Things
crazy.
continue the same way into 2024 as well. What went
That's
wrong?
still a lot of
Well,
people, though.
BeReal's journey is surprisingly similar to another app from a few years ago, which I think is the perfect case study.
Okay, tell me why
Road
Vine.
work ahead.
It might be very similar,
I
to be
sure
honest.
hope it does.
Thanks,
When
Drew.
Vine took off, it dominated the internet. It was essentially TikTok, a vertical video platform, but all the way back in 2012, it was like BeReal. It had a gimmick. Vines had to be 6 seconds or under, quite restrictive, but it made for some very creative comedy. By
I'd agree.
2013, it was the fastest growing app in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 years later, it had amassed 200 million monthly active users.
That's actually
That's
kind of
almost
crazy.
the same as Twitter at the time, who soon acquired the app. It's wild to think that Vine
yeah. Twitter used to have this old, like, para something. Oh, what was it? You used to be able to go live on Twitter, and that was like what it was called. Let me look it up. Twitter Live, like 2013. Oh, what was it? Okay. Twitter Live app name 2013. Periscope! That's what it was called. Apparently, they discontinued. That was like one of my very first like experiences with Twitter, because Twitter also bought them as well.
beat TikTok to the punch, and by quite a few years. It was everywhere, so how did Vine disappear? Well, Vine wasn't monetized. No advertising,
true.
no sponsorships,
Yup.
nothing.
Yep.
Creators didn't earn royalties from content either, meaning no money flowed into or out of Vine. 200 million users, but no advertising. Great for users, sure, but it wasn't a sustainable business. It was
That's
just
fair.
a massive cost to maintain. Yet
Yeah.
it goes even deeper than that. 6-second videos is a fun gimmick, but it eventually became extremely restrictive. It's hard for an app to stay so big when only one very specific type of content is available.
That's
YouTube
fair.
has all kinds of different categories,
That's very fair.
and the same goes for TikTok. But Vine was restricted to just funny skits and extremely specific ones at that. In fact, YouTube just increased the max duration of shorts from 1 minute to 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
1 minute is already quite short, so just try to imagine if they were just 6 seconds. Then came the inevitable. Vine was shut down in January 2017. Its growth was waning, and it was too much of a cost, since there was no monetization.
This might just be a common denominator. Periscope didn't last. Vine didn't last. Twitter didn't even last Twitter. I don't know if it's just Twitter itself, the people running it, before and after the sell-off. I'm starting to see a common denominator here. If you want your company to last, do not sell it to Twitter, okay?
Twitter and Vine's founders couldn't figure out how to make money from the app. So, what does all of this have to do with BeReal?
They had the same
Those who
issue.
don't remember history are doomed to repeat it, and BeReal has unfortunately repeated the same mistakes as Vine. They weren't monetized at all, at least for a long time. Being the anti-Instagram wasn't just about authenticity, but also saying no to the intrusive and seemingly endless ads Meta throws at you.
That's very
BeReal
fair.
was adamant about avoiding this. For the time being, they were just focusing on growing and gaining users, and it seems like they wanted to make the experience great before monetizing it. The board of BeReal said that tons of apps can find users, but few can keep them. It is fascinating how well they can retain users. World class.
I don't think that's a quote that you want to hear by your board of directors of any company. I find it so fascinating that these apps, these companies can find people to use their app and then also keep them using their app.
Ironic given the current state of BeReal. Running an app with tens of millions is extremely expensive, so BeReal was following the common startup roadmap. Live on VC funding and monetize later.
Fair. Yep.
That's a very common plan, and BeReal was doing the same. In 2021, they raised $30 million, and in 2022, they raised $90 million. But BeReal couldn't keep doing this once their users started leaving.
It's a lot of money.
So problems go much deeper than revenue. Unfortunately, the thing that propelled BeReal to the top of the App Store was also what killed it.
Chapter 3, the why. Okay.
Gen Z adopted BeReal with open arms.
Oh,
but
yeah.
as time went on, the app's unique selling point started to wear out its welcome. In order for the photos to be real, they had to come in at a random time. A pretty fun idea on paper, but over time, this starts to get annoying. Imagine you're driving, in an interview, or just at your job. It's not always easy to drop everything and be real.
I get it. There's important things in life. As much as Gen Z, by the way, as much as we are chronically online, if being real, that's not a BeReal issue. That is a personal issue if BeReal is controlling your life, okay? I hate to say it.
The restrictive photo reminders soon changed from fun to a chore to annoying.
I think a chore was
BeReal started to feel like work. The authenticity and real side to the app started to lose its flair.
I'd agree.
Going off at 10:30 p.m. is it? Suppose I better obediently take a picture of myself barely awake whilst laying down on the sofa watching TV alone.
I don't know if it was like this, but imagine if it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock in the morning is very different everywhere in the world. But if it happened every single day at like that specific time for that day and then rolled over into the next one for the next day, that's I think what they should do, where it just like kind of constantly rolls. So you go from, you know, the very eastern side of the time zone, going all the way through it past Hawaii, and then you reset it for that next day. That's I feel like they should have done, because yeah, I feel like if I were to post, I'm obviously in bed, but then another person's like just waking up, like that's kind of confusing. Sorry, side tangent.
So that the only 3 friends I have left who are using it can see. But it goes deeper. BeReal had what I'd call accountability features to keep things real. If you don't take your photo in 2 minutes, any later photo would be marked as late.
That's fair.
But there's something much worse.
1 second,
if you
2 seconds.
don't take your daily photo, the app will lock you out until you do. You can't see your friend's post or do anything until you take that photo, which if you missed will already be marked as late. These do help with the intended purpose, but it also comes off as very bossy. Eventually, Gen Z began to feel BeReal was parenting them, and this is the demographic that will put up with this the least. Stanford research found that Generation Z is highly likely to question authority and to push back against it. So if you mix that with a bossy app, things will eventually reach a breaking point.
Something happened to get that answer.
Still, there's something much worse about all of this, and I'll explain that soon.
Okay.
But this restriction turning from fun to annoying was the exact same problem Vine had. It's a gimmick that helped it stand out, eventually hindered its growth, and became too restrictive. Most Vine stars moved on to YouTube or TikTok, and that's where they really took off, because they can make much more than 6-second shorts. These restrictions aren't just annoying though, they're extremely counterintuitive to the health of an app because they go against the very foundation of user psychology. Outside of revenue, there are 2 vital components to an app's success: frequency and duration. How often users open the app and how long they use it for. Apps want you to check in every day and stay around for several minutes at least. Here's the big problem. By locking users out of their feed before they take a photo, which is essentially a chore, is preventing BeReal's desired action. They're making it—
I get it. They're harping on that again. The one main thing that I think that completely killed BeReal, I'm going to get ahead of the curve here because I feel like this is one of the main things that they're going to mention in this video, is that they took away the global feature where you could just like see anyone all across the world. They're friends of friends. Like that became kind of frustrating. They've just like completely reverted. Like I understand if like the very initial launch was just you and whoever you had added. I get that. But now friends of friends is very much like limited. And now there's no global, which I would understand if they unlock that, but they've had it and then they've reverted back to an old save file. I don't like that. It's nice to see what people are doing in like Turkmenistan, what people are doing in like Egypt. Like I've seen someone like skiing in the Swiss Alps. It's like super cool to see what other people are doing. I could be like, oh, that's really cool. I'll give you a little thumbs up.
It's harder for users to use the app, to scroll, to see friends, and spend more time on BeReal. This is a huge no-go. It goes against the fundamentals for apps and psychology. Behavior that is rewarded will be done more often, and behavior that is punished will be done less often, called operant conditioning. If you want your child to do a desired action, like homework or a chore, you don't make it harder to do that. You make the desired action as easy as possible. This is reinforced by the principle of least effort. In The Economist's book, which has been cited over 50,000 times, he says, in the economy of action, effort is a cost. Laziness is built deep into our nature. If you want your customer to buy something, you need to make it as easy as possible. And if you want them to use their app,
thanks. Are we going to like a sponsored segment right now? That's kind of what it feels like.
Makes it harder for users to spend more time on the app, meaning things were doomed from the start. This is why so many apps care about streaks or daily rewards like Snapchat, Duolingo, or thousands of mobile games, encouraging you to build a habit built on positive reinforcement and making it as easy to do as possible. Some might say BeReal does have streaks though. Well, it does, but it added them in 2024, long after the app began to die. Most users had already left. This was another problem. BeReal had sudden unbelievable success, but as the saying goes, you strike while the iron is hot. They didn't add many features, nor did they capitalize on the surge in users. They probably assumed they had made it. So after the majority of their users left,
there's
what
discovery.
Happened to BeReal?
Oh, chapter 4. Never thought we'd get
By
here.
early 2024, BeReal's active users had mostly all left. Yet, unlike Vine, BeReal didn't die. Something far more interesting happened.
You're telling me that BeReal got bought by Voodoo. Mind you, I played Mob Control. I played Block Jam. Helix Jump, I think we've all played. We've all played Paper.io. I played Hole.io. What is We Moms? Why is Voodoo even in the mom sphere? In what? This has to be a typo, right? Why is BeReal owned by the company that has all of these gimmicky microtransactions, ads every like 3 turns game?
Salvation came in the form of an acquisition. In June of 2024,
Voodoo is
BeReal
like the
was
Mr.
acquired by
Beast
the
of like
French
app
tech company Voodoo for 500 million euros. A decent good payout for the founders,
That's crazy.
Despite a dying app. You might think, well, that's
half
not
a billion
weird.
euros?
Twitter bought Vine and Facebook bought Instagram, but things are a bit different here.
That's crazy.
Voodoo isn't a social media company. They actually make casual mobile games. BeReal is their first and only social media app. They don't have the greatest reputation either, being consistently caught up in scandal after scandal, including many lawsuits, and are known for some deceptive, unethical advertising.
Let's see. Oh, there's Apple
Right after
Cash.
the acquisition, Voodoo laid off a portion of staff, and naturally, fans aren't optimistic about BeReal. But what does a mobile game company want with a social media app? We don't know for certain, but I have a few suspicions. Voodoo might be trying to break into the social media industry, and maybe they're going to overhaul BeReal's monetization. But personally,
that's what I was just trying to find out, because they certainly did. BeReal, I remember for a very long time, like probably like right after this acquisition, the ads that I would get on there, it was more ads that I saw than my friends. And I have quite a bit of people added on there, especially because of the discovery feed that used to be on there. When I'm thinking about this, when I saw Blitz, because that's like a win cash type of game, like a win cash now game, I was like, I remember seeing just like Blitz, Blitz, Blitz. It was Apple Cash this time. So I feel like there's a little less. Plus, I feel like maybe they are trying to turn the corner and invest themselves into a social media app. Gosh, I hope they overhaul it.
I think there's something else. Voodoo thrives on their casual daily apps, which are jam-packed with advertising. They might have acquired BeReal for their data, most of which surrounds Gen Z. An app which entirely functions around a daily habit of young people seems to scream good behavioral data. Whatever the reason, a mobile game giant is a strange
for the data.
parent
That's
company
crazy.
for BeReal. I think BeReal was a great idea, and Gen Z was fiercely loyal for a while. It stood for something good, authenticity, and saying no to the endless intrusive ads. But it seems BeReal lacked some foresight. What attracted people to the platform also became their biggest weakness. They only added daily streaks after users were already leaving, and they didn't seem to fix problems which annoyed their users. The same can be said about their monetization. Just because a few tech giants seem to live on VC funding forever doesn't mean that you can too. Eventually, you'll need to figure out how your business can make revenue and profit. Solving it later doesn't usually work out how you hoped for.
Gotta be one step ahead.
It looks like Google is currently trying to solve their AI problem later after years of complacency, and it doesn't seem to be working out very well. Check out this video to learn more.
Thank you, Logically Answered, for an amazing video on the rise and fall of BeReal. It's crazy that they had over 100 million users downloading this app. That's crazy. So with all of that said, let me know down in the comment section if you guys still use BeReal. What do you think that they can do to survive? And most importantly, subscribe!